Morning, Scott.
Good morning, Jake.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Today, I'd like to continue the conversation and start with an update on what we've been seeing over the past couple months.
You bet.
We've covered a lot to date, but I think what we do know is that things are ever changing and they're not going to stop anytime soon. So we've entered a new phase of long lead times, escalated pricing, trying to navigate those, and we don't see that finishing in a couple months. It might be a couple of years. So can you just start with maybe a quick update on what you've seen recently?
Sure. I think one of the things that has really been interesting to me is the things that we started to talk about several months ago now are in the news almost daily in one way or another. And the stories that we hear aren't all the same. So deciphering what's real and what's made for TV has been a challenge.
So tell me, what are we seeing at the ports today?
It's really gotten worse since the last time we talked. Last week, the average number of ships that anchor off of the coast of California was in the mid-80s every day. And we're also seeing it now off of the coast of Savannah, Georgia, which is the largest eastern seaboard port. And that number is in the 20s every day now.
And we know that causes a ripple effect. One thing we've said before is we're not economists, so we're not going to make predictions on inflation. But I think what we are seeing is increased pricing in our world.
Absolutely.
Can you provide a couple thoughts there?
Sure. One of the things that we've had the opportunity to do now that we've been in this for a while is projects that we priced at the beginning of the year, we're now having the opportunity to reprice again. And so along with all of the information that we've been monitoring and tracking from our vendors and subcontractors, we're now actually able to look at it on an individual project basis. And we've seen on a number of those projects inflation or escalation higher than I have seen in my time in this business in over 30 years.
And I think what we know is energy prices are going up. That could be driving some shipping prices.
Sure. I think energy is certainly one of the things that affects a number of the commodities. For example, it takes a lot of energy to produce things out of copper and aluminum from the raw material that's mined or extracted. Energy itself is becoming a big issue. We've seen oil prices at record highs. There doesn't seem to be any relief in the near future of that. I think other things that impact energy, here we are 1st of November today. We're moving into colder weather. There are lots of fears and concerns out there about the cost of natural gas for us here in the US because it's such a big component of our energy use. Around the world, Europe is facing shortages, China is facing shortages. So there have been shutdowns mandated by the government in China because of energy usage. It's moved beyond COVID, and now they're having slowdowns because of energy requirements.
Wow. So the world is a totally new place. Can we focus on just for a couple minutes how we're going to help our clients and how we help them navigate this world as a general contractor?
I think we have several opportunities as a general contractor to help our clients navigate that better. One would be because of the delivery method we are most comfortable in, and that's the GMP method where we're onboarded early, we have the time available in that process during pre-construction to help our clients navigate what's the best approach for that project. I'd hate to be either a contractor or an owner that has historically lived by the design bid build world where you would be at the mercy of the market and not ready to enter that market until your drawings are done. I think we are very fortunate with the way we position ourselves in that market.
So I think in 2021, we found ourselves in a really unique role, maybe that we're not traditionally used to. I'd love to dig into some examples of where we've helped clients navigate some difficult conversations, difficult decisions.
And I think building on the last question that we talked about, one of the things for us that is significant is sometimes the reason behind the supply chain issue isn't as important as what we can do to help manage it. An example, there's a large client that we've done work with for a long time, done many projects, new buildings, renovations, and there was a significant delay in the anticipated delivery of some large electrical equipment. That client actually has a relationship with the vendor that the subcontractor hired for that equipment, and the project team was able to use that relationship to rebuild the supply chain process of where those pieces and parts and components came from and got assembled, rather than moving from China to Mexico to several places in the US, all of the components came here locally to be assembled and cut the delivery of that particular equipment for that project by about 2 months.
Wow.
Another thing that we have seen on some of our distribution projects, for example, is whether it's here in Illinois or Wisconsin or Indiana and even Ohio, primarily those exterior wall panels are plant cast, precast wall panels. We've got at least 2 projects that I'm aware of now that have switched from plant cast, precast to site cast tilt up, just because the lead time for precast is still out 8, 9, 10 months or more. And if the concrete contractors are available with manpower and have the experience, we can drastically shorten that time frame by making that material on site.
Scott, can you tell us a little bit about the escalation we're seeing and more so on specific examples of what we're seeing in different projects in different markets?
It's really been since the beginning of the year that we've seen these supply chain issues and the inflation and escalation really soar. We've had the opportunity to reprice some projects that we priced early in the year. And one of the interesting things about those, one, for example, we saw about an 8.5% increase over 6 or 8 months. And another, we saw over a 13% increase in that same time frame. And as our industrial work, especially in Indiana and Ohio, where it's even more of a factor in our markets than it is here, we've seen those numbers jump over 30%. What's driving that big difference, and something that we've never seen before, when we talk about construction cost escalation, it's always a generic, uniform. It was 3% last year. It's been 3% historically. A big year was 5%. Now it depends on location, on subcontract trade, on individual materials. So in 2021, one project can go up 8%, another 13%, and another 30%. Mm-hmm. So how we look back at 2021 from the future is going to be a really interesting aspect of understanding what's happened in the marketplace with numbers.
So we mentioned that our escalation used to be a job level markup, just 1% carried at the bottom of the project on the estimate. We're seeing different escalations based on project type, based on location. How are we going to handle that going forward?
Yeah, we've actually got a project underway to do just that. We are beginning to take all of that information, whether it's by commodity, by individual material, by trade. A steel building, for example, is impacted much heavier than a concrete building. Some of the things we talked about, the industrial and warehouse buildings, primarily being those precast wall panels and the steel and the roof deck and the roof and insulation, those are probably the 4 or 5 commodities hit the most. So we are looking to the future of having that general cost index be replaced by one that we can look at by location, by market type, and even down into each individual material.
So construction, architecture, and engineering has always been about creating things and planning properly. I think it's been really interesting to see how our role as contractor has changed, our relationships with those partners and our clients have changed, and it'll be really interesting to see how we keep navigating this going forward. So thanks for your insights, and I look forward to the next one.
You bet.